Assassin's Creed is my favorite gaming franchise, and I have a lot of love and appreciation for everything Ubisoft put into it, but I can't deny that it has always struggled with identity. That's not just true for the characters it creates, it's true of the franchise itself, and maybe even Ubisoft as a company. Over the years, we've seen the series shift from stealth-focused historical fiction to action-adventure epics to full-blown RPGs, constantly reinventing itself, searching for clarity. Always moving, always recalibrating, trying to find purpose, direction, redemption, freedom, control. Sound familiar? Because at its core, Assassin's Creed has always been about people who are pulled into something larger than themselves, into a centuries-long war where the personal is quickly swallowed by the political. Characters are drawn into the creed to escape pain or find justice, but they're often told to set aside personal desire for greater good, to serve the community, the brotherhood, the cause. And in many ways, the franchise follows the same arc. Just like its protagonist, it spent years trying to define its role in a larger war. A war not between Templars and Assassins, but between studios and market trends. Like any company, Ubisoft has had to make choices to stay competitive, and that means playing a role in the larger industry landscape, shifting towards RPG mechanics, expanding into Netflix adaptations, multiplayer, all in the name of survival and growth. Again, it mirrors the very themes at the heart of Assassin's Creed: power, control, influence, sacrifice, identity, the things every business must weigh. But just as an Assassin's Creed game can overextend itself narratively, trying to carry too much weight, juggle too many ideas, a company can overextend too, and that's where the risk lies. Because for all its ambition, the franchise still struggles to deliver titles that break into the conversation when we talk about the overarching, great, generation-defining narrative games of all time. Why? I think it comes down to two things: a lack of focus when it comes to truly intimate personal storytelling, and over-reliance on recycled spectacles and meta. So how do you take a franchise this massive and bring it back to the heart? The solution is surprisingly simple. Let's get personal. Most Assassin's Creed stories share a familiar starting point, a hero shaped by trauma, revenge, or life set in motion from birth. They're trained and tested until they're ready to serve the Creed or something Creed adjacent, which gives them purpose and a sense of maturity. By the end, they become part of the ongoing conflict between the Code and the Creed. While these stories do explore personal growth, much of the gameplay experience leans towards showing how the protagonist impacts the society or community around them, meeting dozens of characters and helping them shape their world alongside their own journey. It's a solid structure and it's worked, but the more it's repeated, the less impact it carries. It's time for something new, not just for the sake of novelty, but Assassin's Creed doesn't need to become something else. It just needs to get a little more creative with the pieces on the board. Here are 4 of my favorite narrative directions a new game could take. The parent-child dynamic. As popularized by The Last of Us and God of War, the franchise loves mentorship, but never gets to let you live it. Let's change that. Imagine a full narrative centered on a parent and child, or at least a dynamic that works that way. Missions where you must choose between protecting your kid/dependent or completing your objective, listening to your guardian/parent, or completing your objective. A relationship that evolves over time, one that you can influence or fail. A brotherhood of children. The Creed is always portrayed as something passed down, but what if it was created from the ground up, by kids? Or teenagers, I guess, I don't know. A group of young outcasts hiding in the shadows of an empire, each with their own skill set, each underestimated. Having smaller characters, your stealth can matter more, and they can implement some traversal mechanics that work better with smaller characters, like going under things, over things, through things that are a lot smaller. Because you're a kid, you're more vulnerable to the world, physically and emotionally, so that creates a lot more tension in the story. It's not about being powerless, it's about defining your own power in a world that sees you as disposable. Next, we have a character that's caught between both factions. For a series built on moral conflict, Assassin's Creed can be surprisingly binary. What if you reject both the Assassins and the Templars? You play as someone hunted by both, someone who steals tactics from each side but refuses to join either. What this allows is philosophical complexity, more flexible gameplay, you can mix Templar and Assassin tools, and a story about building your own code instead of inheriting one. This isn't about balance, it's about survival in a world that demands allegiance even when neither side has earned it. Next, we have an older assassin, someone similar to Ezio in Revelations. Most AC protagonists are in their 20s. They're learning how the world works. Let's see someone who already knows and is asking what to do with that knowledge. A retired assassin, a parent, a disillusioned idealist, someone who has lived and isn't sure if it mattered. This opens doors to stories about mortality, redemption, regret, legacy, And gameplay doesn't have to suffer, it deepens, because wisdom becomes your most valuable weapon, which is a fresh change to the franchise. For years, the Assassin's Creed gameplay loop has followed the same formula: receive your target, gather intel, strike, move on, rinse, repeat, advance the Brotherhood, or at least what it stands for. It's serviceable, it's familiar, but it's also limiting. Because not every assassin needs to be a frontline soldier in a centuries-old war, and not every mission needs to be about dismantling conspiracy. What if the gameplay wasn't about the duties of being an assassin, but about the journey that unfolds because you are one, or were one? Or what if the creed wasn't the objective but the baggage? It's something you carry with you that shapes your life long after the mission ends. You're not trying to rise in the ranks, you're trying to repair what the creed has cost you, your relationships, your peace, your future. You're not uncovering a grand plot, you're dealing with the fallout of what's already been done. Gameplay should reflect that emotional weight. Missions where you're cleaning up after collateral damage, literal or personal. Interactions that shift depending on who knows you're in the Brotherhood. Stealth missions not to gather intel, but to avoid being recognized by someone you love. Dialogue trees where characters question your allegiance or your absence. Downtime moments where you reconnect with family, friends, a child, and see whether they still recognize who you are. We need to see them come home at the end of the day, back to a life that isn't defined by the war but shaped by it. Back to people who remind them of why they fight and what it's costing them. That's where the real game begins. Assassin's Creed has always aimed for scale, revolutions, empires, secret wars, and conspiracies. Our heroes are fighting for the greater good, but some of the best stories, most emotionally resonant stories, aren't about changing the world, they're about what the world changes in you. Let's stop flattening every assassin into a symbol. Let them be people. Show them being people. All this time spent building larger worlds and larger stakes and more content than ever before. But maybe it's time to refocus all that ambition, not on making the world bigger or more complex, but on making a character's small slice of it feel richer. I want to sit with the grief. I want to feel the failures. I want to celebrate the small wins and hold space for the love. Instead of filling the playthrough with endless micro-interactions, with dozens and dozens of faces that blur together over 70 to 80 hours, let's give all that time and love to the ones that matter. The ones that serve the emotional core these games are built on. That's what's missing. That's what could usher this franchise into something narratively that can sit amongst other critically acclaimed narrative powerhouse games, open world or not. Not just bigger. Not just bolder. But deeper.